Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Double Barrel Podcast. My name is Chris.
I'm Justin.
And welcome back. Today, we are reviewing none other than the new military contract handgun, the SIG P320 M17.
Let's be clear. It is the U.S. Army's new pick.
Yes.
The others may or may not follow suit. They usually do, but that hasn't been decided yet.
Correct.
So it is the U.S. Army's new handgun.
Anyway, Justin, let's go through safety, and for those that are joining us for the first time.
Well, even if you're not joining us for the first time, it's good to go over the safety rules. First and foremost, as always, treat every firearm as if it is loaded. Never point the gun at anything and you are not willing to destroy. Keep your finger off the trigger until you are ready to fire and know your target and what's beyond. And then, as always, don't drink and shoot. We don't do that, neither should you. It's a bad idea. Anyway, let's dive right into this one. Now, I've been a huge fan of SIG for a long time, and unfortunately, this is not the one that I wanted.
The P226?
The P226.
Is that the one you're thinking? Just like everybody else out there is like, yeah, it's got to be the P226.
Yeah, it's the P2, but it is the P226 Elite.
Elite, yes, the one that's used by the
one that's used by the Navy SEALs. That is the one that I want. And that one I want specifically because I have seen a lot of good stuff on that one, and it just looks like a really, really solid gun that I would love to shoot. Now,
well, anyway,
this is a new addition to your collection.
Yeah, it was bought for me by my wife over Christmas.
So, yeah, brand new edition, bought for you for Christmas. Today we went and ran 100 rounds through it.
About 100, I think we actually, about 125.
Yeah.
Ran 2.5 boxes through it.
Two and a half boxes of it. This is a 9mm, folks. So, again, we've talked about 9mm, not super expensive on the ammo, super readily available. And so this is one that running up 2.5 boxes through it wasn't too bad.
No, and this was an initial test, folks. We have never shot this gun before. It was the first time out with it, first time having any ammo down it, and it did very well. And
it did very, very, very well. And even though the initial test on the guns isn't like the same as the initial test on the alcohols.
No. However, though, an initial reaction for a firearm like this, I feel like it did really well. And that brings us to our first category, which is reliability.
Yeah, and, the initial reaction on the guns, unless it's a rifle that you've actually put optics on or you've put a red dot sight on it, an initial reaction is actually a good measure of how well did they do the sights line up from the factory. And this one, I think of the 125 rounds we put down it, I want to say at least 80 of them.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I think we were about
target.
80 between the two of us here. And what was interesting to me,
about 75% accuracy.
Well, here's what's interesting to me, though, Justin, about this gun. And you and I both were talking about this out in the field after we had done a couple rounds with it. It seemed to me like we had to bury the nose, like it felt like we were burying the nose of the barrel to get it to stay on target with the sights. And that was interesting to me.
You said that, and it is just the way that these sights line up. The dots on the back, the rear sights are a little bit further down than what you're typically used to. And so and the dot up front is way bigger than the dot in the back. And so lining those up properly was kind of a challenge.
Yeah, I kind of felt like I had to bury the nose a little bit on this one. Anyway,
I didn't feel like I had to bury the nose so much.
That's what it just kind of felt like.
I do feel like I had to adjust where I was on it to line it up just right and actually get it to hit on target. Now, the 125 rounds we threw down this, not a single one jammed.
No misfires, no jams, no failure to feeds. It held up just fine.
It did. I did find one very interesting thing about this that you and I kind of found as we were going through it. We did a couple of quick reloads.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I did it, and this is why we tell you, if you're going to shoot with gloves, buy fingerless ones on the thumb and the index finger. I threw a mag in, tried to hit the release, and my glove wouldn't catch it, and
You pinched, yeah.
I didn't even pinch. It wouldn't grab it and release it.
The other one that was interesting to me is it was like an auto slam. It was kind of like something like the old shotguns, how you can do like a slam fire. When I did my mag swap, I found that when I ran the mag in a little bit harder, the slide auto slid.
It did. It seemed like when you had a round in the magazine and you slammed it in there hard, it popped the release and auto loaded.
That was kind of a neat little feature, and
I'm not sure if that's a feature or a design flaw.
I don't know. It could be either.
We'll have to consult with SIG on that. But if it's a design feature, good on them.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a design flaw,
Bad on them.
maybe you should work on that, SIG. Because when I put the mag in, and I put it in just like I do with my other handguns, I didn't kind of slam it in there, but I clicked it in hard. It didn't auto release. I actually had to pull the slide back or flip the release. And so I never got it to auto load. You did a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Well, let's kind of look at it this way then. On an initial test, first time out in the field, what do you give it?
You know, for reliability, it was good, but at the same time, there are a couple of things that I wish they had done a little bit better.
But do those have to do with reliability, though?
Little bit.
Okay, but what do you give it?
So I'm going to give it a 4.
Okay. I would agree with you that it's going to get a 4. I would rate it exactly the same, just due to the fact that it
works,
mm-hmm.
and it mechanically did great, except for I feel like the slide release needs to be slightly larger.
It had a weird positioning.
It's weird position, and I think it needs to be slightly larger for a more reliable release of the slide. And I feel like the dots on the sights that come standard need to match.
I will agree with that 100%.
Because this one has that little dot inside and then a big dot outside that are both painted. And then in the back, you have the little dot painted, but the big dot not painted. And so I feel like they need to match.
This whole gun screams, put a red dot on me.
It really does.
And that's what it says to me.
And it is ready for the red dot. You can see right here that this plate can be removed, and it's red dot ready.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, anyway, let's jump forward here a little bit. And I mean, I think overall though, it's a solid gun. It shot everything we put down. It's just, I feel like you said, it could have had some different features on it that
there are a few things that I feel like it would made it.
I mean, we're being very, very nitpicky on it right now, and that's okay.
I don't even feel like I'm being nitpicky on it, because these small slide releases, and I'll turn this around real quick. These real small slide releases bother me.
Well, they really don't do too much.
All they do is catch this. It's a catch, not a release.
It's a slide lock, not a slide release at that point.
Yeah, but I want it to be both.
But again, a very reliable gun for striker fire, and you and I are not a huge fan of striker fire. That gets us into the next category, which is...
Well, I'm not a huge fan of the striker fire. This one, I'm actually not... This one's not bad. And that brings us into our next category of versatility. Now, it is a 9mm handgun. We all know what we think of versatility on 9mm handguns. They're great self-defense guns. They're
great plinking guns.
They're great varmint hunting guns. They're great teaching guns. They're great all the way around as far as versatility. This one, in particular, because of this very nice, actually, kind of not robust, but easily used.
The beaver tail safety right there.
The beaver tail safety right there. That, and it is an ambidextrous safety. I really like that. Again, the slide catch, not so much, and it is just the one-sided.
Yeah, it can be
mag
flopped,
release.
but it's not true ambi. Yeah,
it's not true ambi, so I don't as far as versatility goes, I don't have a whole lot negative to say about it, especially because this one can have that
Right.
red dot. The U.S. military is going to use it, which means it can be used in combat situations, which obviously means it's going to be good for self-defense situations.
Well, and not only that, it's going to hold up well in any type of elements, any type of environment, because it has to meet certain criteria for the type of weapon that it is.
Part of that is this grip.
Well, I'm just also talking about the mechanics of the
No,
weapon.
mechanics as well, but part of that is this grip. I prefer the steel.
Yeah, you and I both prefer steel.
I prefer the steel. This one is a polymer, which is one of my only negative things to say about this gun so far, is especially as you're right in there, right near the trigger, it feels kind of cheap.
It does, however, it doesn't, and I'm not trying to knock Glock here, but it doesn't feel like I'm holding a toaster oven in my hand. It doesn't feel like I'm holding a brick.
It doesn't feel like a brick, and it doesn't feel like a toy, which is my problem with Glock. Is I feel like it's a toy.
I'm not holding like a plastic toy. That's
this
correct.
actually has more substance to it, and it feels like it was actually made rugged and
it
durable.
has some ergonomics to it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, and the ergonomics are great. I love the ergonomics on this one. So
I'm going to go first on this one. I'm going to give it a 4 again. I'm going to give it a solid 4.
See, I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Okay, a little bit better then.
Because the actual ergonomics of this one, on top of all the features that it has available to it, I feel like it is slightly more versatile than a regular 9mm handgun. But at the same time, it fits really, really, really nicely in the hand.
It does, in both of our hands, and we have two very different
hand styles, and it didn't matter whether we used the 17-round mag or the 21-round mag. It fit very, very nicely in both of our hands, and the versatility of this one, I feel like it's just there, because I feel like this one can and will do almost everything you ask of it.
In a 9mm platform.
In a 9mm platform. But talking about the handle and the way it feels and fits in our hands brings us into the shootability of the gun.
Absolutely. And the only thing that I will say is potentially a negative towards it in the shootability is the sights. And that I say that for whether you're a beginner novice to an experienced pro, the sights were, it took us a minute to get adapted to the sights.
It did take us 2 or 3 rounds to finally realize what was going on with the sights. And again, it just comes back to, in my opinion, I feel like it's just the way that they've painted the sights kind of throws you off a bit, because you have really big dot in the middle and then 2 really small dots in the back, and I don't feel like those sizes match up real well, and it makes it more difficult to line them up properly, in my opinion, on the sights. But the rest of it, I agree, everything else was great as far as shootability. I still don't like the way it feels, just right in here.
Right where it's smooth.
Right here where it's smooth. Yeah. Everywhere else feels fine and great and happy. It's just this one little slot right there that I feel like it should have had some texture just on these ridges right here.
And I can overlook that. The other thing, though, and it's going to score a little bit higher for me because it's also a gun that would work for a left-handed shooter.
Absolutely. This one is actually one that I feel like a left-handed shooter, even though the safety is, you have to actually, or not the safety, I'm sorry.
The mag release.
The mag release, you'd have to swap. But even without swapping it, I feel like a lefty wouldn't have too much trouble with this mag release.
Well, and saying that, my dad actually owns one of these. He just owns the 4-inch version, the
320C?
I think that's what it is, correct?
The compact?
Yeah. He has that one that's got the shorter barrel, and he bought it for the same reasons that it is here. It's in the same configuration, just like I said, smaller barrel. He can operate it just fine, and he's a true left-handed shooter.
Yeah. And so, yeah, as far as left-handed shooters, new shooters, experienced shooters, I feel like this is a very, very shootable gun. I'm going to actually give this a solid 5 on shootability.
I'm going to go 4.5, but go ahead. I apologize.
I'm going to give it a solid 5 because everything about it feels real nice. The trigger on that, the last time we talked about a striker fire, that Gearson,
The reset, the goopiness of the trigger.
The goopiness
was
of the trigger.
Very, very
and the reset, which is so bad for me. And that's been one of my problems with striker fires. This one, very, very crisp trigger. Not a huge reset. I actually felt like I could shoot this faster than I could shoot my Bursa 9.
Right.
Well,
it's funny you mentioned that, actually, because now that I'm thinking back when I was shooting it and I was doing some of the more, I was trying to be, not as accurate, but I was going for more speed. I don't actually ever recall having an issue whatsoever with reset or anything. In fact, that's interesting that you bring that up, because that's how smooth and fluid it was for me. It had no lag.
To me, it performed more like a hammer fire
than
a striker fire.
That makes sense.
And because I could actually just go, which is what you want, especially in a combat pistol. And I don't know, in all the striker fires that I've shot, minus that competition one that you have,
my Canex?
Your Canex, I have always felt that there's too much reset on the trigger.
Right, we need to review that Canex, because that trigger, Canex did a phenomenal job on that gun.
That is the one trigger that I will say beats out all of the hammer fire triggers that I've tried so far. That's a super clean one. But this one...
Well, I'm going to give it a 4.5. The only reason why I'm knocking at the 0.5 is the sights. The iron sights, it's a hard one to get over, and I feel like we took your burst out in the field today. After we got done shooting this one, we kind of had to readjust back to what a normal pair of sights is on the majority of our guns. And that, to me, is why I'm going to knock at that 0.5.
See, and I'm not going to knock at that 0.5 because, for me, it only took 2-3 rounds either gun to get used to the sights. And then once I was used to the sights, I was able to actually go back and forth and was fine. So yeah, it did have a little bit of a learning curve to it, but I don't think it was bad enough to really lose any points from my perspective.
And that's, to me, I was kind of about the same. It took me about 4 or 5 rounds, but it was pretty easy to readjust. And again, I am nitpicking it here, but that's okay. I'm choosing to nitpick it.
You are choosing to nitpick it a little bit, but that's fine.
Yeah.
You're giving your honest opinion on the gun, which is all what we do here.
Well,
but I don't feel like it deserves to be knocked for that on the shootability part. I did knock it for that on the reliability part because I felt like that affected the accuracy, and for me, accuracy falls under reliability.
No, I would agree with that. How accurately and reliably can you
how reliably can you hit the target?
Firearm,
and so that's where I knocked it for that. But I totally understand why you're knocking it for in shootability.
Well, and I think
because it does affect that.
I think this next category, though, it's going to score extremely well in, and that the next category is
cost.
And like we always talk about,
it's your favorite category, as
or
you say.
second. It's my first or second category because I don't care who you are. At the end of the day, your cost is either going to be at the top of your list or second on your list.
Very rarely will it be third.
Yeah, it's going to be one of the two.
For this one, cost, before we dig into that, I want to talk about, so this one, when you bought it, you got a nice hard plastic case, big old case that came with this one. So great for bringing gun out to the field. You got the 17 round mag plus 2 21 round mags, and it's red dot ready.
Yeah.
And so this one has a lot of cool features. It came with a lot of good stuff. And so how much is MSRP?
I want to say MSRP on this particular model is $700. Now here's where we got to get. Its value is a little bit more. This one is actually a custom firearm that was ordered from SIG.
You're right. This one is a custom. That was special ordered. It's the Joint Task Force Operation Inherent Resolve Special Edition. So this particular gun is a little bit different than
But the
other.
normal one, I believe it's like 700 to 750 is its MSRP.
Right. And that's the P320 M17. We're kind of glossing over the fact that it's a special order. How much did you pay for this special order one? Because he got it on Gunbroker. They got it on Gunbroker. They got a really good deal on it.
$435.
Yeah, basically 50% off on Gunbroker. Now, even at the $700 price tag,
Here's the thing. You can pick them up around $620 to $650.
Right.
In any firearm store. They're not at full MSRP. I would say it's going to get a 5, and that's why it's scoring really well. I apologize. Is exactly what we've been saying. You have 3 mags. You have a 17 221s, red dot ready, nice hard case. Just you're getting
plus
your
this
value.
little band here.
Yeah, the little.
It's a little rubber
trophy.
band.
Oh, and it came with a patch. It came with a patch that says M17 on it.
Okay, you get a lot of cool stuff with this one, but it's $620. That puts it, what I pay like $450 for the Gearson, so it's $200 more than the Gearson, but this one performs so much better.
Lights out. Like I almost shot this one as well on the initial outing, as I do my Beretta M9.
In my opinion, folks, he shot this one better. He shot it more accurately, and he seemed more comfortable with it. However, striker fire to striker fire, I own the Gearson.
Yeah.
And the Gearson to this, I would much rather have this.
This one actually competes pretty closely with the Canex.
It really does. And so I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Okay.
Because I know the Canik isn't much different in cost.
It's $500, $550.
Yeah, the Canik is not much different in cost, and that one is really. If I'm having to decide between the two,
You're gonna go with Canik, and I get that.
I'm not even sure I'm going to go with Canik at this point. If you had asked me before we shot this, yes, I'm just going to buy the Canik. This one might be worth the extra, might not. It's a difficult decision, so I'm going to give it that 4.5 because it puts it in a real competitive category for me.
Right, and that is, and the good
not
news
bad at all.
is you're in a mid tier, but I do feel like this gun performs at a high tier gun for a striker fire.
Oh, for me, it performs at a very high tier gun level. Like I said, I'm putting this on almost on the same level as a bespoke competition gun that you use.
Well, and let's look at the ones that competed against though for the military contract real fast. And I own every single one but one of them. Now, we have the SIG P320 M17. We have the Beretta M9A3/A4, and then we have the FN 509 TAC, and then it would be the other one is the Glock 19. I can't remember what its subclass is, but it was the Glock 19. Those are the big 4 that went up for the military contract, and the SIG won. Now, here's where I want to get into this, and we'll look at scoring here.
Well, just real quick, like I said, you own the Beretta, the FN, and the SIG now. We've shot all 3. Do you feel like the Army made the right choice?
No, because I'm a Beretta fan. I feel like that what Beretta did, and we'll talk about it when we review that one, they fixed all the issues that were complained about and were an issue with the original M9. They totally corrected their issue. What I was going to say, though, is we're still in cost here. Let's look at it. The Beretta M9 is $1,000. The FN 509 is $900. The Glock is $600 to $700, and the SIG is $600 to $700.
Yes, but we all know how I feel about Glocks, so Glock's going to get thrown out the window immediately. And having shot all 3, I feel like the Army did make the right choice, and this, in my opinion, is the best performing
Even over the FN, because you
even
love
over,
my FN.
I do love the FN, but even over the FN, I feel like the SIG performs better. I like the way the SIG performs better than I like the way that the FN performs.
And I know you have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with my Beretta, so that's okay.
I have a love-hate relationship with all Beretta. Beretta and I have, sometimes we get along great, and other times we have been ready to throw fists. I know it's hard to throw fists with a gun, but I've been that close. But the SIG, I
enjoyed it a lot.
It is super enjoyable. I love this thing.
And both of us, I feel like, did really, really well with it on its first outing. It performed extremely well, exceptionally well. And anyway, we've talked all the categories.
Let's talk about our overall scoring now.
You were a 18, which is a very high score and a very good score.
Very high score, very good score. I think it's one of the highest I've ever given a pistol.
Mm-hmm.
You gave it a 17.5. Not much worse than what I gave it. And aside from, I don't think you've given a higher score on a pistol. Is there one that you can think of that you...
Out of the ones we've done?
Out of the ones we've done, can you think...
I think the Walther.
No.
Yeah, we gave our P22s, I think we gave them almost perfect scores.
I think we're like 16 for the Walthers.
Interesting. Okay, it might be the highest one that's
I think it's the highest one that you've given. I think it's the highest one I've given as well.
It's
as far as the pistols go,
and it's earned it. However, there are a few, like, again, it's going to be interesting to see how my favorite handgun out of my collection, my Beretta, is going to stack up against it too. Oh, I think I did give a higher one. I think I did give an 18. My HK got an 18, I believe.
It might have, but that was episode 1. That's been a while ago.
But that one
we'll
would
have to
definitely...
double check. But yeah, this one is still, even if you did give another 18 to another gun, 18 is still your highest score.
It's earned it. Absolutely.
And so it's, for it to get that high is impressive, and just goes to show how good of a gun this actually is.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely, I'm buying this gun.
Well, and I mean that's just a good gun. I would highly recommend it, folks. If you have an opportunity to purchase one,
Well, see,
it's a good gun.
It's a great gun, and it's not even for a full frame, it's not super big. It's almost one that you could everyday carry. And so yeah, it's...
If you're going to do the carry one, I would do the one my dad picked
I would do
up.
the 320C.
Yeah, the 4-inch barrel. That one would be a better one to conceal.
The 320 compact would be a better choice, but if it performs anything like this one does, you're going to love it.
Absolutely. Anyway, folks,
we 5 o'clock yet?
Yeah, I think we are.
All right, let's hit it.
Let's get cleaned up. We're going to put this stuff away, and we're going to step behind the bars. So stay tuned.
We'll be right back. I'm going to do something mean.
Oh, really?
Oh, really? Bye, folks. Welcome back to the second half of the Double Barrel Podcast, everybody. It is now 5 o'clock and time for our happy hour.
Let's do it.
Is it going to be happy, though?
I don't know. Are we? Because we're surprising each other again. Is it? Or is it going to be...
Since we finished the liquor closet, you've enjoyed the ability to walk in and grab something and surprise me with it. So we're going to do that again this time. And I asked him because he has to go first because he knows what's in there. Slightly better than what I know.
A little bit.
So, and I did half threaten you again. We do...
This is why I'm making you go first, though.
We have to get through the bad ones too, you know.
You go first and just bring it out and show me. Because that's going to dictate now what I get. You set yourself up for this one, partner.
But see, at the same time as if I pick the bad one that I have, it's just as bad for me as it is for you, and you know I hate it as much as you do.
I'm just saying, go.
Let's make a deal. We'll do one bad one and then one good one when we do the bad ones. I'm not saying we're going to do them today.
All right, go.
That way it's not, we're mean to ourselves and then we're nice to each other.
Just go ahead and pick it.
All right, I'll go ahead and pick it. I'll be nice, I promise.
Uh-huh, yeah, right. By the way, folks, why he's picking his out, I have uploaded quite a few videos and shorts to TikTok. It's under Double Barrel Pod. And the reason why Justin's kind of been MIA this whole time is the fact that him and his wife have just welcomed their 4th child into the world, and we couldn't be happier. But please check us out on TikTok. Let us know how we're doing. I also want to hear from you folks on what drinks you would like me to try. I can make them. As you can see, I have a whole bar here, and I pretty much got everything under the sun that I can think of in there. And I want to start doing that for you folks. So anyway, let's give Justin and his wife a round of applause here in celebration of their new baby. Congratulations, Justin.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to do the Knob Creek 12-year.
One of my favorite. Are you trying to torture yourself?
No, because it's not. This one wasn't torture. But if I pick this, you have to go off the rails too. Because I picked a brown. I never pick the browns. I always pick the clears.
All right, I'm going to go pick one.
You got to pick something off the rails now. I threw you a total curveball, and I told him earlier I was going to do that. But yes, please check us out, Double Barrel Pod on TikTok. I will be joining him on TikTok.
You've complained
soon.
enough.
I've complained enough. That is not what I would have picked, or thought you would have picked for your first one, gin.
My favorite gin of all time.
I didn't know it was your favorite gin of all time. To be fair, you have 1 bottle of that and 3 bottles of aviation.
Yeah, that was because I didn't realize how much of it I had. I actually have 2 bottles of Hendrick's. I have an original, and then I have one in the decanter that is a special release from Hendrick's. And I'm not going to do the special release one because it is in the decanter.
Well, you could do it in the decanter.
I honestly don't remember what special release it is, though.
Oh.
That's the issue.
Okay, that is it. That is an issue, and I will grant you not doing that. But see, I forced us to go take a different direction with our podcast on the drinks today.
We're doing bourbon. We're really
taking
a different direction?
Yeah, because I chose it.
Okay, that's fair.
I voluntarily picked a bourbon.
And it was in my top 3. It just recently fell out of the top 3.
But still, I picked the bourbon, which forced you to pick something else. I actually thought you were going to go with one of the rums.
No, actually, this time I was going with gin because you've complained so much about it.
Okay, I'm not going to say I don't complain. But
you've given me a lot of crap.
I've given you a lot of crap because you say you love gin. And aside from one short video that you and I did together, I have not seen you drink gin.
I will agree with you on that. And gin is usually something I enjoy on my own.
And which is fair, and that's totally cool. I get that and I respect it. But at the same time, you say you love it, and I've never seen you choose it, so I have wanted to see you choose it.
Well, we're going to start with the bourbon.
We are going to start with the bourbon because I want to.
Do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to talk about it?
I want you to talk about it.
All right.
Because it is one of your favorites.
So this one holds the number 4 spot right now on my favorite bourbon list. And Knob Creek they're very solid company. They're very solid bourbon. I enjoy them. The Knob Creek, and if you know us, we're weird. We like to smell the cork.
Well, I like to smell the cork because the smell from the cork and the smell from the alcohol itself in the glasses tends to be a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And the smell, because let's be honest, if you're smelling something to try and decide whether or not you're going to drink it, what do? You smell the cork.
Well,
and
but
so
always remember,
I like to know what that is.
We talked about it quite a bit on this podcast, and we talk a lot about it. What always is on the nose doesn't transfer to the palate.
You're right. It doesn't. However, I have found that, especially with the bourbons, if I don't like the way it smells prior to trying it, I'm less likely to enjoy the bourbon itself.
I would agree with you on that.
Yes. I know. I have a hard time pouring out of these bottles.
It's fine. That's why we do it. So don't even worry too much about it. Let's go over scoring for those that might be joining us for the first time.
Or just as a reminder, those of you joining us for the 5th time, 10th time, 9th time. Which is it?
I don't know. Did we hit our quota? We had a goal.
We had a goal. We
And
haven't
then
hit
we
it
hit.
at the time of recording this video.
Which is Super Bowl weekend.
It's just Super Bowl weekend. But at the same time, I also didn't get it up as quickly as I had anticipated.
Should we give the folks one more week?
I think we give the folks
Okay.
another week.
So I'm going to go on TikTok then when I do another short and tell the folks we're going to give them another week because I really want to do episode 10, which is going to be an awesome episode. I've teased it to the folks on TikTok, and I'm going to tease it right here. Folks, what we're going to be doing is I'm either going to bust out the most expensive bottle of bourbon that I have never tried yet, which is my Booker's Storyteller. And that is at my place in Colorado right now, and it means I have to drive it home.
You have to drive it home.
Or I have a bottle of Blanton's that I've never tried and a bottle of E.H. Taylor. One of those three is going to be episode 10.
Well, see, and that makes it difficult for me because, episode 10 we want to be special. And for the rifles on episode 10, or the gun on episode 10, we're actually going to do a head-to-head battle.
It's going to be the duel of the 6.5 Creedmoors.
Duel of the 6.5s, because we both have a 6.5. It's a different rifle, but we're going to do that. But it makes it difficult, my choice on alcohol difficult, because I can't get near as expensive as you do in the clears.
There's nothing to do with expensive. It has to do with quality because
That's true.
Let's talk about Purity vodka, excuse me, I didn't mean to do that, but that Purity vodka was only a $30 bottle, and that's one of the best vodkas I've ever drank, period.
Okay. Now, to begin with, we start with taste and aroma. And then we go into our drinkability.
Yep.
From our drinkability, we go into cost and then our overall feel. So we're going to start with taste and aroma, which deals with the smell and then the neat taste.
Correct.
And so on the nose,
I want to hear you because I know what I get on the nose. I'm very familiar with this bourbon.
I get a lot of the oak on the nose. I do get some spices on the nose. It's kind of like an allspice.
Okay, that makes sense. I would agree with that. It's more like a clove, nutmeg, allspice.
Yeah,
Yes,
clove,
you're right.
nutmeg, allspice on the nose is what I get. What do you get on the nose?
So I get oak, caramel are very straightforward, and I do get those things giving nutmeg, clove, allspice. Now, folks, always remember, first taste is a palatizing taste.
Again, every time with this one. Now, this one is a 50%, 100 proof.
It is a little weaker on the proof than some of the
It's
ones
not.
that I have.
It's not as bad as Elijah, but it's still up there, and I'm still not used to that huge high proof. And
So talk about what you got on that initial hit first.
So on the initial hit, I get more spice than anything, and it's that spice combined with the burn at the end that makes me do that little cough because the spice is good, love the spice, tastes great, but then that burn comes up and it's just all of a sudden, hold on, can't handle it.
You're drinking a whiskey bourbon. All right, I'm going to talk about my palatizing. Always get those spices, and I always get the caramel. My second one there, I usually discover cherry, and I got the cherry in that one. And I always get the oak and caramel and the spice. So I'm at 4 flavors right now. And if everyone remembers what I talk about, a great bourbon at any category or any class or price range should be what I classify as a progressive bourbon. It should take you on a journey.
So
Why I go in for number 3, you talk about yours.
I'm going to talk about my 2 and 3. So on 2, I get that caramel coming through and a little bit of the oak. On number 3, I get a lot of the oak, the caramel, and the cherry coming through. But it does, the allspice kind of lingers there in the background and adds to all the rest of it. But it does kind of fall off a little bit in the burn. With this one, unlike the Elijah Craig that took 5.
It does die off, doesn't it?
It dies off real quick as far as the overwhelming burn.
Yeah.
Which is why, of the bourbons, I do like the Knob Creek 12 toasted.
It is really good. And what I got, well, it's not toasted. It's just Knob Creek 12 here. Did it say toasted on there?
Oh, I thought I
No,
grabbed
that
the
one's
toasted.
not a toasted.
This is just the straight
I have an
12.
Elijah Craig toasted in there that that I saw you staring at.
I think that's the one I got the toasted.
I actually don't think Knob Creek actually has a toasted or a double oaked.
I don't know.
If they do, I'll buy it.
I got myself confused. It is just the Knob Creek 12 here, but
Here's
it is
what I
one
got
of my
on 3.
favorite.
So I got the oak, caramel, vanilla, cherry, spice.
I don't get the vanilla.
So the vanilla for me, it's kind of like, so it starts off with the oak and the spice, and then it transitions into the cherry and vanilla, and then it finishes off with the smoke and caramel.
Right. And see, but this is, again, the difference in our palates, and that could very easily be
I'm listening.
because you're more used to these bourbons than I am.
And that is 100% true. So, folks, what I'm doing here is we got to do our mixed drink for this one. And
We got to do our score on taste and aroma first. But while you're grabbing the ingredients for the mixed, I'll do my score, and then you can come out.
I'm going to help you with the drink, though, that we're going to mix.
I was going to ask for your help on that. So, as far as taste and aroma, folks, this one I actually do give a solid 4 on, because that initial palatizing taste does take a little bit to get over. But as you can see with the way Chris reacts, the more you do it, the better it becomes. And this one, it's only that initial taste that is not great. And even if you just take a small sip on that initial palatizing taste, by the time you're done with that small sip, your second, your third, your fourth drink are going to take you on a nice journey through the bourbon, and it just gets really good. And so, yeah, I'm going to give this one a nice solid 4.
That one gets a 4.5 for me on taste and aroma. It was in my top 3 for a long time, and it just recently just got beat out. And again, though, it's still in my top 5.
Well, it is it's a very solid bourbon. Oh yeah, you need that if you want to make a drink.
I do if I want to make us a drink. So the drink that I'm going to make us is one that you and I have done, that we tested. It's called the Revolver. And the bourbon that I originally picked for the Revolver, I don't feel like it was the right bourbon. I picked an Elijah Craig toasted barrel for it, and it just did not hold up to what, I don't feel like it complemented the drink. Now, this drink is one that I looked up online and was kind of just looking for something kind of more new and unique. So the real drink itself is 2 ounces of bourbon of your choice, and then it is an ounce of coffee liqueur, and we have some imported straight from Mexico, Cafe
Lalita.
I hope my wife does not kill me.
Yeah, it's Cafe Lalita.
Okay, I don't want to get in trouble. Honey, is that how you pronounce that? Okay, we're good, folks.
For those of you that don't know, his wife is Latina, and she usually does. She's the reason that we tried the Terramana tequila, which I can't complain about that.
Well, and in all honesty, she's the whole reason that we have gotten better at this, because without her guiding hand, we would not be. What did we call her? Our CEO?
Director,
CEO, boss. Anyway, back to what I was talking about here, folks. It is an ounce of coffee liqueur. We're doing a 1 ounce bourbon.
We're basically
so that's a
having the recipe.
Half an ounce, and then it's 2 dashes of bitters, the aromatic bitters. I'm using the, how do you pronounce that? That's just a very popular one.
Angostura.
Yeah, that's all over the place. So I'm just going to do a dash and a dash there.
And then stir stick?
I think you just zhuzh it around there a little bit. You know, that I kind of like that word, zhuzh.
The zhuzhing.
The zhuzhing. This is us being alcoholic enthusiasts.
I'm sure there is a proper name for this. We don't know it. You can tell us it. We're still not going to call it the right name.
Nope. All right, folks, the Revolver. Lot better than lot better than the Revolver.
Lot better than the Toasted.
That really hit a good note there.
It did. So for me, that one, it started with allspice.
Yeah, and then it got the coffee in there, the oak and smoke.
Got the oak and smoke, and then it kind of finishes on a caramel coffee note.
So I got cherry. I didn't really get a lot of the caramel in there. I got the cherry note on the end, which was good.
I get the cherry on the very, very end.
Yeah, it was like right here as it was
coffee
rolling
flavor,
back down.
For those of you who don't like coffee and are worried about that, because some people don't like the bitter taste of coffee,
true.
that it actually had a more caramelly taste. Mm-hmm. So it was like a caramel frappuccino.
See, and
Taste?
I didn't get that, but I guess that's just me because I got the coffee that came through and it tasted kind of more like just your normal basic coffee.
Yeah, but
then
you like the normal basic coffee.
I drink my coffee
don't.
black.
I
Shed
don't.
black.
And so, for me, it doesn't taste overpoweringly like coffee.
So what's your score on? I'm sorry, what category are we on?
We are on drinkability.
What's your score?
For drinkability, we think, would we drink it alone? Would we choose it at an open bar, cost notwithstanding? And is it something that, given a choice of, say, 10 drinks, are we going to choose it? This one, for me, it's going to end up at about 3.5, 4. We're going to go
around a 4.
We're going to go with 4, because given the choice between a lot of the vodkas, let's say if I have 5 vodkas, 5 browns to choose from, it's still going to be in the top 5 choices. It does beat out some of the vodkas that we've tried. It definitely beats out some of the bourbons that I've tried. So if I have 10 to choose from, of the ones that we've reviewed so far,
right,
I would still say that's within my top 5 choices.
And I'm going to give it a 4.8. And the reason why it just gets knocked a little bit is it wasn't my top 3 for such a long time. It comes down to another topic we'll get into later, into cost a little bit, but drinkability. It is a very drinkable bourbon, and obviously I've drank it alone. I mean,
we're 3/4 of the way done with the bottle.
Yeah, it's a great
I
bottle.
definitely haven't helped you get that far down on the bottle.
I think we did that one on the pilot episode, actually, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, it's...
No, we did Elijah Craig on the pilot episode.
Oh, did we do...
Oh, no. You're talking unaired pilot.
The unaired pilot.
I think we did do Knob Creek.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a great one. I give it a 4.8. I feel like 4 is very generous coming from you for a brown.
I am disappointed.
It's a good one, but it does...
I still feel like this should have got a 5 from you. But
it's close.
I'll accept the 4.8.
It's close.
But it is surprising
cost.
more than anything else.
Let's get into the cost factor here.
How much?
$80. That is an $80, and that's pretty true anywhere you go to find this one. It's a $75 to an $80 bottle of bourbon.
And this is where part of my big issue with bourbons comes in. Is yes, this is within my top 5, but my number 1 drink is $35.
Which one? Which bourbon?
Not bourbon.
Oh, the Purity vodka?
The Purity vodka, my number 1
let's
drink.
Be fair to it in the Browns, though.
In the Browns, okay.
Obviously,
my
Del
favorite
More is up there.
But my favorite in the Browns was only 50.
Which one? No, I'm curious. Which one? Because the other two that you really
the Old
liked
Elk?
No, it was the Dalmore 12, and that one was also 80. And then you're a Johnny Walker Gold fan, and that one's usually around 60 to 70.
No, what's the one that you spent 50 on? That
The Highland Park.
Highland.
This one.
Was it Highland?
The one we tried last time was Highland.
No, it was one before that.
Dalmore. The Dalmore 12 year.
No, because it was only $50, and I was extremely surprised that it was only $50. And I said they should be charging more for it.
I'll have to fact check that one. Anyway.
No, I know I said that. I don't remember which one I said that for.
I don't remember either.
But I know I said that about one of them. That I said I would pay $80 for that bottle, and you told me it was only $50.
That was the Highland Park.
Was that the Highland Park?
That was the Highland Park one.
Okay. But either way, it's
in
still,
a very competitive range.
It's in a very competitive range, but I have a trouble with $80 for something when at least for me, there are ones that I prefer for cheaper.
It's going to score a 4 for me in that category just because I feel like if it was closer to like... Now keep in mind, though, it is a 12-year bourbon. 12-year bourbons you're getting up there in the age more. It's not as most bourbons are anywhere between a 6 and a 10-year. So 12-year is you're starting to get into more of that rare category for age statement. I don't necessarily think it's not in the correct category. It's just if I was to be very honest with it, I wouldn't spend more than maybe 65, 70. So I'm not too far. I don't feel like it's too far off the mark. It does stay on the shelf regularly, though, so it's still getting a 4.
It stays on your shelf regularly. For me, it gets a 3.
And I
because I
see that.
As far as comparative straight across to that Highland Park, if that is the correct one, I'm going to double check that. But the one that I said I loved and thought they should be charging more for, I do think it's close, but it's not quite there. However, I do feel like that one belongs in the... We could go into the $80 category and I'd pay for it. But I do feel like this one and that one need to trade places as far as cost.
And I can see why this one is more expensive, like I said, though, because it is a 12-year bourbon.
I get that it's a 12-year bourbon. I understand why it costs what it costs.
Yeah.
But as far as for someone like me who is just tasting it and drinking it, I feel like there is something out there that tasted better, that should have been more expensive, and this one should have been less expensive because of the way that they taste and the way that they mix and just because of my overall feel of the drink. I feel like this one it scores low because I feel like they should be trading places.
And let's get into overall though. I mean this is just a good all-around bourbon. It's not a beginner bourbon. I would not classify this at all as a beginner bourbon.
When I first broke into bourbons with Chris, he gave me 3 different ones.
This was one of them.
This was one of them. And he gave me one that we haven't got into yet, and this is the one that I said that he could be mean to me with. I'm not going to tell them what it is. I'm going to let them be surprised when we actually get into the rot gut. And he gave me one of the Elijah Craigs, wasn't it?
It was the barrel proof, the first episode that we aired.
And all 3 of them were way more than I should have had.
Yeah, it was not a good starting point.
And so it made me very, very wary of the bourbons.
Yeah.
However, now... And I intentionally picked this one today because I've now had close to 20 bourbons.
Right, yeah. You wanted to see how you liked it?
I wanted to see how I feel about it now.
And how do you feel about it?
Honestly, it's going to get a 4.5 overall.
That's awesome.
Because it is, I know I scored it lower than 4.5 on every single category.
Right.
But overall, it is a good drink. It is one that I do enjoy. And it does mix really well into not just the Revolver. I've had that in
an old fashioned,
and it mixes really well in that as well. And so it does have great features to it. It's just in the individual categories, it's not my favorite. It has reasons to fall down in each category, but overall, it is still in definitely my top 10. It's probably 5th or 6th on my list of
Here's what I'm going to give it.
drinks.
I'm going to give it a 4.5. And the reason why I give it a 4.5 is it is just a solid bourbon. It's not one that I would go, wow. Like, still, if you can spend the money on it, I absolutely recommend picking it up. And I'm just going to keep mine pretty simple on it. It's a 4.5. It's a very solid bourbon for what it is. I really haven't had anything from Knob Creek that I haven't thoroughly enjoyed.
It's not a knock your socks off bourbon, but it's
I
still
actually enjoy it.
nice, rock solid. See, and I agree with that. Again, it's not one of those knock your socks off bourbons, which we had ones that were amazing, and it's not one that's horrible.
No, it's a great bourbon, and I will not. I mean, and here's what's funny, though, is 17.8, 17.5. We're within...
Overall, we're pretty close
on
this one, but that just goes to show you how much progression has gone into me as far as the bourbons. If we had done this on episode 1, it would probably have only scored about a 14.
It would have gone as badly as Elijah Craig.
A 13 or a 14, I think, is what it would have originally got. But honestly, it's not a bad drink.
No. It's a good one.
But I will say to you folks, make it 5th, 6th, 7th bourbon you try.
Yeah, get a couple under your belt.
Get a couple under your belt, and if you are more into the clear liquors, like I am, the vodkas, get yourself some wheated bourbons. Start there. They will introduce you into the world of burban a lot smoother than just jumping right into the
To
bourbon.
be fair to the Knob Creek, though, this one's only 100 proof.
Only, he says.
However, though, it does punch a little hotter than most 100 proofs do.
I will agree. It does punch pretty hard. However, it's not horrible. It's not bad.
Good.
It's not a bad punch. But it is something that if you go straight for this Knob Creek 12-year,
No,
you're going to have a bad time.
Probably going to have a negative experience. I would agree with that. But anyway,
So like I said, start with the Weededs, work your way into that one. Let's dive now into
Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix.
Not Jimmy, but Hendrix. All right.
I was hoping.
For those of you out there, for my gin fans out there, welcome.
Are we going to have martinis?
I don't actually think. I think vermouth is one of the few things I don't have in there. We're going to do one of my favorite ones, though, and I'll get to it in a minute.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Hendrix is what is classified as a London dry gin, and I particularly am a fan of London dried gins. That means they're more... Go ahead, ask your question.
My question is, how many different types of gin are there?
Well...
Because this is one that, our first time doing this, I thought all gins were clear. And remind me if I'm wrong, that one's purple.
No, the Woody Creek is purple.
Woody Creek is purple.
Because that one's got the pea rose.
Okay.
That's got the pea flower in it. But most of them are. So like this one's a pretty straight up London dry gin. It's citrus peel, and then it's juniper and botanicals. Pretty much all gins are going to have juniper in them. And
Okay.
now why I like London dry gins is simply the fact of one of my favorite juices is grapefruit juice. A London dry gin tastes very, very similar on its own neat to me to grapefruit juice. So you get that tart, tang, citrus sweet.
See, it goes back to that he likes his coffee straight up black. He likes bitter.
I do.
I like sweet. So we'll see how this is going to work for me. Let's see if I end up on my butt.
And like I said, folks, I am a huge fan of Hendrix. It's my favorite. For those of you out there that know gin, my baseline is Tanqueray.
All right.
Can you hand me a shot glass, sir?
I can hand you a shot glass.
Hand me two.
I'm going to hand you a couple of shot glasses here.
Okay, so you and I are going to do shots of this for neat.
Well, we try to do about a shot neat. That way we don't go flying through the sky.
Yeah, and that
Which, you watch our last couple episodes,
it's not happened. It's not gone that great.
we did go on it a little bit of an adventure.
Okay.
See, I got to smell this before I drink this. You know, I remember walking home from school as a kid. And the little...
That's how most horror stories start.
It is just how most horror stories start. But you know them little short green bushes you walked by as a kid? Mm-hmm. I almost get about that same smell. Which, with a hint, just a tiny hint of hairspray. Don't be giving yourself another.
I'm not.
Oh, you're starting your mixed drink. Okay. This one, the nose kind of transfers to the palate. Mm-hmm. But it is... I get that tart taste.
Yep. You're tasting the juniper. That's the one
I'm tasting the juniper. And I am tasting... That's that bush smell I was talking about.
That's that bush smell, he says.
It's the juniper bush. And, you know, it's not bad.
But do you get the citrus, though? Because I get the citrus.
I get the citrus mixed in along with that juniper taste. Now, it's not bad. But this is definitely not one that...
Gin is a very acquired taste.
I can see that. I can see it being an acquired taste. It's not my favorite. It's not horrible. Honestly, as far as taste and aroma goes, the aroma is a little off-putting. I'm not going to lie.
It's a typical London dry gin.
but it is a little off-putting because it smells, again, like a bush.
Yeah.
It doesn't smell like something you want to drink right off the bat. And so, but then you taste it and it tastes pretty good. Mm-hmm. It's not bad. I'm going to actually give it a 3.5 just because I do feel like that the initial hit of the drink, of the shot, and the smell is kind of off-putting. Hey, you got to give your score before you dive right into this.
I'm going to give it a 5 because it really is my favorite gin.
And
there's no hairspray taste. There's no kerosene taste. There's no smell of any kind of that like I've had on some gins. And it's just a straight up good, solid gin. I get the citrus. I get the juniper that comes through. And that's why I enjoy it so much.
And I fully respect that. And
like I said, gin is an acquired taste.
It is an acquired taste. I haven't acquired the taste. But bourbon's also an acquired taste, and I'm getting there.
I feel like gin's even more of an acquired taste.
I will agree with that.
So I made probably one of my favorite, besides a martini. It is a gin and tonic.
See,
now this is where this starts to really taste like grapefruit juice for me.
The martini, I'm more willing to try a vodka martini
than a gin?
Over a gin martini.
Gin martinis.
However, Hawkeye Pierce has made me always want to try a gin martini.
Shaken, not stirred, right?
Oh, no, his is stirred.
I'm more James Bond style, man.
James Bond gets the vodka martini.
All right.
Okay. You know, grapefruit right up front, citrus right up front, ends very heavily on the juniper for me.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it ends for me, too. This is one of the first alcohols I actually started drinking when I turned 21.
Oh, tonic went up the nose. The fizz from the tonic just kind of creeped up there.
I like that. I've always liked Hendrix, though.
You know, I got to finish my thought on Pierce.
Go ahead.
So you've watched MASH, right?
Yes.
Pierce, Hawkeye Pierce, BJ Honeycutt, and Trapper John McIntyre always drink martinis. Mm-hmm. They drink gin martinis that are typically stirred. James Bond drinks the vodka martini that is shaken, not stirred. And so the fact that you like yours shaken, not stirred.
Mm-hmm. I just like James Bond.
You do like James Bond. But anyway, back to this.
What's your score on drinkability?
You know, as far as drinkability goes, I'm going to give it another 3.
Okay.
And it is because this is going to be a very acquired taste.
It is.
Like, at least for this one. You've told me that there are numerous types of gin. Mm-hmm. And they all taste a little bit different.
Yes.
So for the London dry gins, not overly huge fan of them right now. But again, it's because I don't like the bitter. If you like kind of tart, bitter things,
yeah, it's great.
I think you'll love this. Mm-hmm. I really do. I think anyone who likes tart and bitter, the grapefruit, will love this drink.
I'm going to give it a 4.
Yeah, I give it a 3 because I don't particularly like the taste.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into cost. What do you think?
$39.99.
$29 to $34.99.
Okay. You know, I had to go a little higher because it's London dry gin. And
but
I think of things from Great Britain being more expensive because they're from Great Britain.
Hendrix has always been classified, and they've held their name up very highly of being a top shelf gin.
Well, and I can't disagree with that because I don't know yet. However, this one, while not terrible, I don't have anything to really compare it to other than my vodkas. But my vodkas, I feel like, have more of a sweet, clear taste to them. And I'm not...
Sorry, folks. We got to do this because this poor guy, I threw him into the deep end without...
Well, and this is the first gin I've ever tried.
This is... Oh, okay, wow. I didn't know that.
Yes, you and I have had the Hendrix another time before, but Hendrix is the only gin, and we've had that purple one.
You haven't heard you tried the Woody?
I tried the Woody, But it was we tried one drink with the Woody.
Drink
and
that.
it was, I don't even remember what the drink was, but it was very, very different.
Try that one. I'll give you something to compare it to. I'll drink that.
New process.
You're good.
What's the cost on this?
On a normal bottle of Aviation, you're about $25.
Okay.
About $22, $25, depending on where you get it.
Okay. Comparing, now that I have some...
Finish that one, though, because that'll actually give you the real... Because Aviation's an American gin, not a London. Sorry, folks, have to give him something to compare to here, otherwise it's not going to be a fair.
You're right. Okay. As far as cost is concerned, I'd rather pay less for the Aviation.
That's fine.
But I'm going to give it, again, it's going to get a 3.
Okay.
If I liked the tart taste, this would end up being more like 4.5. Because I don't like the tart taste.
It's why it's getting a 3.
It's getting a 3 because I can't justify spending that much money on something that on a taste I don't like.
Right.
And even comparing it with the Aviation gin that you just gave me, Aviation gin still has a little bit of that tart taste, not as much.
But it's smoother.
It's much smoother.
Well, and here's why. Okay, so I'm going to give it a 4, and here's why I'm going to give it a 4. The one I just gave you is what demoted this from a 5 to a 4.
Okay.
All right. Now, I'm going to tell you guys something. Aviation, for those of you who don't know, is a celebrity alcohol. Guess who's affiliated with that one?
I know who's affiliated with that one. I don't like mentioning the celebrities.
I'm going to mention him because I mentioned who Terramana was in my TikTok.
That's fair.
So,
I'm just pointing out, I don't like mentioning the celebrities or the shows or that I've really seen
well,
these
I'm
things
going to
on
mention this
typically.
one because he did a really good job on it, and I really think this guy's awesome. It's none other than Deadpool himself, Ryan Reynolds. And he knocked it out of the park on this gin. He did the same thing that Dwayne Johnson did with the Terramana. Took the time to invest in not just slapping his name on a bottle and
I will agree with you. If I compare my limited experience on the gins, which is I've only ever had the 3.
Right.
Of the 3, I'd rather drink the Aviation all day long.
Well, but the Aviation's also, it's an American gin, not a London dry gin.
I get that, but I'd rather have that all day long. To me, it tastes better. But
overall, what would you give my favorite gin of all time, Hendrick's?
what I'm going to give your favorite gin of all time as an overall, I'm going to give it a 3.5.
That's fine. I mean,
because again, here's the thing. It is a very solid, very consistent, much like I like through my liquors. It's very solid, very consistent all the way through. Does not have a huge kerosene taste. Does not have any huge burn really at all. But I can't get over the bitter taste that it leaves in your mouth.
and that's fine. That's when you just told me in this episode, folks. He's never told us before. You've never tried gin before. I'm actually very glad we've done this on our podcast because I wasn't aware of that.
No, gin is a very, very, very new thing to me. Like, even when we started this podcast, I was new to bourbons.
Yeah.
But I'd tried 4 or 5 of them with you before we started.
You've never tried a gin.
I've never
That's crazy.
had a gin until...
My overall score is 4.5 on this one, and for the solid reason it's a 4.5 is just because it's always been my favorite. It still remains my favorite. But I do enjoy Aviation. The Woody Creek, the pea flower's got a little bit of an interesting taste. We'll get into that one when we review it. However, Hendrick's is just that good to me. I really enjoy Hendrick's.
And I can see why you enjoy it. Knowing you and knowing how your tastes are, knowing you really, really, really enjoy the bitter tastes and the tart tastes that I'm not really a huge fan of, knowing that this being your favorite, not surprised.
Well,
You giving it a 17.5 out of 20. A little bit surprised that it's that low. But overall, totally understand where you're coming from this. And again, folks, if you like bitter, tart tastes, I think you'll enjoy it as much as he does. I think you would give it a 17.5 as well.
Here's the thing. I think this is the second or the lowest score you've ever given an alcohol. 13!
No, I think this is the second.
I think the Elijah Craig was lower.
I think I have given a 12 or a 12.5.
I think you gave the Elijah Craig a 9.5.
Did he get that low?
It got pretty low.
That did get pretty low.
We need to revisit that one.
We need to revisit that episode. We honestly need to just write right here what each one we've done and what score they got.
So we can reference.
So we can reference it.
However, though, it doesn't surprise me, especially when you told me that you've never had a gin before. Like I said, gin is a very acquired taste because there's like a couple out there like Bombay Sapphire that have more mint predominant, and then like Beefeater is pepper forward, like black pepper.
The mint forward, I might enjoy because I do like things like peppermint, spearmint. I do like minty things. This one being very bitter forward, just it falls down on and solely on the fact that it is bitter through the drink and it leaves a bitter aftertaste in the mouth. And I
get you.
I don't like bitter.
I get you.
But however,
go ahead.
If you do like bitter,
it's a great one. I recommend.
I think you'll end up loving it just as much as he does. I think you'd love this even more than some of the vodkas that I've recommended.
It's a good one. But anyway, folks, we've kind of talked these two to death.
I don't know that we've talked them to death because there have been a few that we've gone way off the rails on.
We have.
However, his favorite gin with his number 3 bourbon. Number 4 bourbon now.
Number 4 now.
Was his number 3 bourbon. Honestly, the fact that only scores 0.3 up on the gin amazes me. And I almost had to buy him a new bottle there.
If I could find it. That's a very allocated bottle of bourbon.
The Knob Creek 12-year, I thought you said that was readily available.
No, those are if you can find them. They're a little bit harder to hunt down.
Okay.
I have 2 bottles because I bought them when I found them, but they are a little bit harder to find.
Okay. But still, the fact that those score so close together should just go to show you folks that when it comes to the liquors, each one has its own very specific flavor profile and its own specific use.
Anyway, folks, from us here at Double Barrel Podcast, we appreciate you guys' support and for you guys tuning in. Always remember, never mix your guns and alcohol. Never drink and drive. Be safe out there.
Taxi, Uber, bus. I mean,
there's a lot.
Friend's couch. Call your dad. Call your mom. Call your brother. Do you know how many options there are? You have so many options at your disposal. There's no excuse for drinking and driving at this point. None whatsoever. Never do it. Ever, 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 ever.
Good night, folks. We'll see you next time.
Hey,
have a great day.
Before we say good night,
like and subscribe.
You need to like and subscribe.
And check us out on all the streaming platforms and now TikTok.
Yeah, check us out on TikTok. It's going to be a fun time. We got some fun stuff from this morning that we're going to get posted on there, aren't we?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be an enjoyable time. Anyway, folks, we love you. Have a good night.
See ya.